Alright, this video is going to look at how to update your staff directory on your website. And keep in mind, the staff directory on the website is also what feeds onto our new district app. So any changes you make there will also show up in the app when people click the link to your school's staff directory. So to start off, log in, and your staff directory is under Our School, Faculty, and Staff. So you can click that. Brings you to the live page, and then you can use edit this page to open it for editing. So likewise, if you're in Site Manager, click on Our School, click on the staff directory page, and then you will get this new page editing. To edit or to open this app for editing, click your little green edit button, and that's going to bring up your staff directory here. A couple things I just wanted to talk through real quick: the workflow for editing the directory and keeping it up to date. So a couple things. We know at the beginning of the year there are all kinds of changes to our staff across schools, and so for the beginning of the year, mass changes, I will work with principals to get that up to date right before the beginning of the year, and that's not something we will necessarily require you to help with. That seemed to work well last year. They kind of know all the things going on in their building, and they can pretty quickly tell you what information is new or up to date. So we'll do that way for the first week of the school. But then beyond that, you will be responsible for adding any new people that come to your building or making any changes if somebody has a name change or an email change, or even if they are assigned to teach a different grade or that kind of thing. So you'll do kind of the ongoing changes or adding. And then likewise for deleting people, Human Capital sends out kind of notices as people resign with the date and the school, and so I will go in and delete people here once I get that notification. But if you ever see anybody listed that is no longer at your building, you can go ahead and go in and delete them. So if you do click to delete somebody, it will pop up and remind you it is permanent. Do you really want to delete them? So that just is a double check before you say yes. So obviously you do not actually want to delete her, so I'll click no. One thing to note, you see these people listed here are all active in green. When you first log in, you may have some that are still on your list that are there, but they're marked as inactive. The first time you log in, if you'll just read over those, and if there are people who really are not at your building, you can go ahead and delete them rather than leaving them inactive. And that'll just kind of clean things up for you. Of course, if you did want to take somebody, pause them not showing up, for example, if they were on a maternity leave or something like that. I'm not saying you need to, but you could use that in that case where their information's still here, you're just removing it for a little while. So that's kind of that basic. We'll look first at adding a new staff member, and we'll go through each field. A lot of this should be pretty self-explanatory. So I'm not going to really type somebody in right now, but we'll just go through the fields. So first name, last name, that's self-explanatory. Image, I do want to talk about here. We definitely want to prioritize using your school taken photographs, if at all possible, and especially moving into future years when we kind of have a heads up. We definitely need to work on getting copies of that CD or getting the digital images from whoever takes your school photos, so that we can use consistency across your school and everybody has a professional photo. Please use your judgment before uploading any sort of selfie style photo. I know people like to pick a photo that portrays them well, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we need to keep in mind this is the face of your school and the face of our organization, and so definitely I would say a blank placeholder is better than something that looks unprofessional. So please just use your judgment there. If you ever need somebody to weigh in, you're welcome to email to us and we can kind of help you with that, or you're also welcome to maybe ask your principal, that kind of thing. But if at all possible, the professional headshots are the best. And I have updated all the principals and APs based on they did new photographs at the beginning of this school year. So those should all be up to date. Contact information, of course, everybody should have a JMCSS email address. Phone number, please make sure to include school phone numbers for your office staff and admins. If principals prefer, you can use the main office number, just work with them on that, but definitely want them all to have a phone number. And for teachers, I would say either include it for every teacher or none, but please don't put cell phones or other personal phone numbers. This really needs to be just district phone. So if they don't have one that they use, just leave it blank. We don't use extensions, so you can leave that blank. For job title, please reference the quick reference I gave you, as well as it's in the step sheet for updating your staff directory. We do want to be really consistent with how we name these titles, so reference that as you're going to put in any new ones. And then also you should be able to now look at other people and how they're named. So if you're adding, fourth grade teacher, that's going to be in a consistent way as other people at your building. Department, that would be either like faculty for teachers, support staff, administration. I think those are the three main ones. If you have questions on that, reference the quick reference, but we do want everybody to have a department listed. Location, that's going to be just your school's address. Room number, that's optional if you want to include room numbers. You can use office for like your main office staff and admins, but for teachers, either put it in for everybody or leave it off for everybody, but it does need to be consistent across your school. Lastly, the URL box, that is an optional field. If they do have, or if your teachers do have a school or a class website that they use frequently, you may link to it there, but just make sure we're keeping it up to date if it's something you're linking. Otherwise, just leave it off. So once you've typed in all of that, you will click save and exit if you're just wanting to do a one-off, or if you want to save and start a new person, you can do save and new. I'll hit cancel for now, and then your person will show up right here. So it's pretty easy as far as adding somebody. We do want to look at if you need to edit. You just scroll down, find your person on here, and click the edit button next to their name, and that pulls up this screen. So similar to what we were looking at earlier. And if you ever need to see kind of the details on somebody, that's how you do it. You can also get to the same thing by clicking on their name. One thing I want to mention is as far as which staff members are included. So to kind of standardize across schools, we say yes, please include any administrators, teachers, support staff, such as office staff, include your librarians, coaches, anybody like that that is specific to your building and is employed by your building principal. Do not include cafeteria staff or GCA staff since they're kind of hired separately. But then also the other subset you do not need to include is like system-wide employees like technology or like Title I consulting teachers, that kind of thing, because those really are going to be more in our central office directory and we'll just need them to be in one place. So that's the basics of your staff directory. If you have any questions, you can let me know, but hopefully that's pretty straightforward. The last thing I will show is how to do mass editing. So if you ever needed to make a bunch of changes at once, we can do that through an upload. So I know I just X'd out. I'm going to go back into editing. And so if you were needing to change everything, for example, you realize, oh no, we put the wrong address for everybody in our building. Come into the staff directory and click on export. This is important step number 1. Export that. It will download. If you're in Google Chrome, it'll come right here. Otherwise, you can open up your downloads. And let me see, I got to make this window a little smaller here. But basically, it's going to open into a CSV file that you can open in Excel. And so you can come in here and make any changes. For example, if I wanted to add a bunch more phone numbers, I could do that here. Of course, you can play around, spread out your columns as you need to. Here's a little trick. If you highlight everything and then mouse around so you see that black kind of double arrow symbol and double click, that will expand the columns to fit whatever's inside. So that just makes it a little bit easier for you to see. A couple things we'll look at with this. The image. What you're going to see here is a URL, so I would recommend do not edit this in Excel. If you want to add images, I would do that in the way we already looked at, kind of one off, adding your image. Likewise, there is this section for active, and you'll see all of these that say true. That is basically the active or inactive. So anybody that says true will show up. So if I am adding like 3 people at once, I can come down to the bottom and type in their information on these next 3 fields. Then it's really important that I put true, true, true if I want them to show up on the page. You'll see this system ID number. That's basically a unique identifier that it's giving them. You can leave that blank if you're adding new people on, and it will automatically do that and create them a new one. So next time you export it, they will have one. So you can make any changes you need to in here, and then you'll basically save this file. I'm going to exit that without saving. But if you were making changes, you would save it, come back into here, and then import. And so to import, select the file you want to import. So you're going to browse and find the file you just saved. So we'll do this one. And you select your file. Once you've made changes to it, click next. And the next step is doing the field mapping. So this is important. Every field should be mapped with the same name because we just did an export. So it takes a minute, but still faster if you're making a ton of changes to do it this way without having to click each one individually. So if system ID matches to system ID, last name, first name, full name, phone, extension. Now you can ignore some of these, like extension we're really not using, but you would definitely need to match anything that has data in it. So just to make sure I don't miss anything, it's easiest to just match everything and they should be right in order. Sorry, this is a little bit cut off. So once you've matched all of those, click next. And it's going to give you a little thing to review. Mainly what you're looking at here is just like, okay, it would be obvious if I had accidentally typed in a phone number in the wrong field over here, I would see, well, that doesn't really look right. So just kind of scroll and you're just kind of looking for the same type stuff in every column. That looks right. And then I would look really at the first column to make sure everything looks correct and that it's in the right spot. So this looks good. I will click import and you get a little message saying success, you imported 37 records. So it is important to just double check that there aren't duplicates once you've done that. And that's basically what would happen if you didn't include their staff number or that unique ID number. You would add another record for every person, but this looks right. There's just one of everybody. So I'm done and I can exit. And that is the basics of updating our staff directory.